Hello, and welcome to the Love Your Work Life podcast. I'm your host, Elissa Shuck. Whether you're going for that next promotion, looking for a job, or making a career pivot, I'll teach you how to navigate it all so you can have the career you want. Welcome to Love Your Work Life, episode 94. Before I get started, I just want to remind you of the upcoming masterclasses this month. They're free. February 9th, which is a Thursday, and February 25th, which is a Saturday. Both of these will be focused on leaving a job that feels toxic, where you're unappreciated, where you're underpaid, all the things, and landing a job where you can feel good again. I'm going to have some practical tips, so please be sure to check out the links in the show notes or go to my website, elissashuck-careercoach.com. Look for events and classes. The information for registering is there, and then you can also get access to the most recent replay, because I will be publishing the replays each time. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about because I've been in those situations where I was underappreciated, underpaid, and swimming in a toxic soup. So my thoughts on this are vast, and while the topic of the masterclass is the same, there are going to be little nuances that I include with each one because I'm interacting with people all the time on LinkedIn. I'm helping clients. So as I learn some new things and uncover some additional pain points along the way, I will be talking about those. So attend as often as you want, and be sure to check out the replay if you can't attend and you register. All right. This week, I want to talk about when less is more. This is so important because I see all the time people talking about or having fears about disadvantages. They feel like their career path is a disadvantage to them getting what they want next. And this can be because you're like me and you have kind of an eclectic, that's my way of putting it, eclectic career background, or you feel like you've had too many different roles. Maybe you are thinking of yourself, or you're worried other people are going to think about you like you're a job hopper because you've worked for a lot of different companies. This can happen with people who like contract roles, right? That contract role might be a 3-month contract, a 6-month contract. Those are natural in that world. So of course you would be moving from client to client, but when it starts to feel like a disadvantage, so we want to address that because it's not a disadvantage. This can also happen, believe it or not, this idea of having a disadvantage when people are at one company 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, that it starts to feel like because you're only at one place, that people aren't going to recognize the value in that. And now that is a disadvantage. And sometimes, this is the most recent thing that got me thinking about this, is because I participated in a conversation when someone felt like being self-employed or doing freelance work was a disadvantage to them getting into a company or corporate role. So here's what I want to offer you. None of these are a disadvantage. These are actually all huge advantages, but you've got to position it that way when you talk about yourself on your resume and during interviews. And that's where the whole idea of less is more comes in. right? Because more could feel like, oh, too much time at one place. More could feel like too many places. More can feel like, hey, I was an entrepreneur and I did all the things, which we know has value, but value to you is one thing, value to someone else is another. Think of it like this. Have you ever seen the director's cut of a movie after you saw the original edited version that was released in theaters or streaming or whatever? If you're like me, then that experience was kind of like, interesting, nice, but it wasn't necessary. I really like the edited version. The edited version, left out the fluff, left out other things that didn't seem relevant to the storyline. This is how I want you to think about your positioning and the way that you are marketing yourself when you're in a job search and you feel like you've got these too many kinds of disadvantages. All of your communication needs to focus on what they need to know about you instead of everything you want to share. And I totally get it. If you are running your own business, you are wearing lots of hats, my friend. You can do lots of things. You may not enjoy all the things, and that's one of the reasons why you're seeking regular full-time employment. Wonderful. But sometimes we'll feel compelled to talk about all the things because you're trying to convince people that you can handle anything, that you can do anything that comes your way. And while that's true, it may not be an advantage when you're trying to land that job. You've got to get into intention. You've got to get very, very strategic. And you've got to edit your career story in a way that is meaningful for the people and for the roles that you are seeking. Listen, leaving something out, editing something out of the story doesn't make your career false or untrue in any way. When you are editing, when you are strategic, when you're leaving out bits, what you're actually doing is showing care and helpfulness for your audience, for the recruiter, for the hiring manager, all the people that you're going to interact with while you're in your job search and interview process. So I want you to think of it that way. And I know you have some awesome bits in there, things that you are really proud of. And I want you to hang on to those things that you're proud of because that will help you feel confident. That'll help you feel certain. That'll remind you that you can do anything you set your mind to. However, when you don't edit and when you aren't careful and you overemphasize the vastness of what you did, of all the things, what will happen is it will feel overwhelming to the people that you're interacting with who have more focused roles. People who haven't been at one company for 30 years, for 25 years. They don't understand what that's like. They can't wrap their mind around it. It starts to feel overwhelming, not because you are overwhelming or that you're unqualified, but because it's human nature. This is why editing is so important. And this is why I love suggesting that you look at your job search, your resume, and your interviews as a marketing campaign. What do they need to understand about you to see you as someone who can solve the problems and achieve the aspirations the specific role addresses? not you as a human. It's about aligning yourself to that role. It's your job to sift through your career history and all of that value that you have accumulated over time, no matter what you've been doing. It's your job to align that with the role, to connect the dots for them. If I look at myself and my career, as I said, it's kind of eclectic. I have done sales, I've done supply chain, I've done product development, I've done merchandising, I've done marketing, I've done brand management. And as wonderful and fulfilling as all of those things were, and as much of an advantage that being in supply chain, being a buyer, had for me in product development, I am not going to make that a huge focus. Because if someone's looking for someone to do product development, unless the job description explicitly says supply chain management experience helpful, then I'm not going to bring it up specifically. What I am going to do is I'm going to find the connections, the overlaps that being a supply chain manager gives me in terms of advantages for that product development role, for that marketing role. There's a lot of things about what you do that have advantages because it gives you a unique viewpoint into another piece of that world. Because of the people you've interacted with, the people you've collaborated with. There's adjacent things that can be so helpful. And oftentimes it's those adjacent things that really appeal to you and why you want to make a transition in the first place. So you want to make sure that you're leveraging your experience in a way that shows alignment and doesn't distract other people. Here's one of the ways I suggest that you do that. Keep a master document of all the things. This is why sometimes a resume can start to go to 3 pages, 4 pages, and longer, right? Because if you wrote down all the things, it would be a very long document. There's nothing wrong with capturing all the things. It's just not going to be your resume. So have this document that captures all of the things. And if there's a lot of variety, then I suggest that you even create multiple documents or buckets. I call them buckets, where you're sorting out the things into relevant areas, relevant buckets of experience. Can be really, really helpful because now you're applying for one job, you know which bucket to go to that has captured all of the relevant experience from your career history to the role that you're seeking. And you're going to use your master document as this reference. You're going to go back to it so that you're really kind of just plugging and playing bullet points from your master document into your resume, from your master document into your interview prep. The other cool thing you can do is when you find a job description and you're like, oh my gosh, I can totally do that. Grab that bullet point that you've just identified and add it to your master document, to your reference document. Put it in the right bucket so you always have it to go back to. Use your buckets to create this sense of focus. Like I said, it can happen on your resume. That's that first thing that's opening doors for you, but it also works really well when you're prepping for interviews because these buckets of experience that you have and the accumulation of additional line items or bullet points that you're gathering as you're job seeking now become opportunities for you to align an accomplishment with it, to align an experience with it. And even if you don't have a specific accomplishment because you're you're seeking a job that you don't have the specific job title, what it will do is it'll help you identify those experiences that you have interacting with other people, those scenarios. Your experience gives some credibility there because of the people you've interacted with and collaborated with. So I want you to give yourself credit for that kind of stuff. And that's why this reference document and bucketing your experiences out like this can be so helpful, because now you can also be focused. Just like overwhelm makes them check out, overwhelm will make your own brain check out. You might even check out on roles to apply for because you have overwhelm in your own mind about what you can do. So use this process. Collect all the things for sure, but then start sorting them so that you can leverage what you need in your job search process, resume, and interviews. Play the role of editor. Remove distractions, because these distractions become little rabbit trails and unintended tangents that will not lead you anywhere good. Might be a fun conversation, but it's not going to be the conversation that lands you the roles. Listen, I totally understand. There's things that you're proud of. Some of your favorite scenes, your favorite accomplishments might not make it in. That's okay. Leave them on the cutting room floor. What might feel like oversimplifying to you probably actually isn't. So do it. Give it a shot. Leave the other stuff behind. You're still approaching your job search and your career with integrity and authenticity, but you're doing it in a way that leverages less is more, and it'll land you the job. Trust me. All right. Until next time, my friends. If you like this podcast, I invite you to visit the Love Your Work Life website at elissashuck-careercoach.com. On the site, you'll find all the information you need to work with me one-on-one, as well as get access to my courses, Job Search Field Guide, and The Art of Stellar Interviews. I can't wait to help. I look forward to seeing you there.